What's up, self-healers? Lisa Lightfeather here. Welcome to my channel, Closing the Gap, where we make a conscious effort to meet you where you're at on your healing and spiritual journey. I hope that you guys are having a good week so far. I want to give a warning about today's topic. Today's topic is another deep one, yeah? I don't really enjoy going deep, but when Spirit gives me the topic, I just feel in my heart that somebody out there needs it, all right? So today's topic is when the narcissistic mother denies a child, when a child comes to the mother and says that they've been molested in some way. Yeah? When the mother looks at the child and says, you're making it up, you have an active imagination, it's a lie, or whatever, right? So this is pretty deep, so let me light a little Palo Santo for you and for me. Woo! It's what we do, yeah? So this video, I am sending out to all the people who have been told by their mothers that they were lying when something happened to them, yes? Confirmation that it's not in your head, that nothing is wrong with you, and that you did nothing wrong, right? So this is not just something that happens to little girls. The statistics say that 1 in 5 girls is molested, right? And 1 in 20 boys is molested. Now, these are the ones that CPS or that has been reported. There's thousands and thousands that go unreported, yeah? And I'm inclined to believe that they really go unreported with little boys. So, a normal, healthy mother, when their child comes to them and says something like they've been violated in some type of way, right? By the father or by the boyfriend or by the teacher at school or, by the clergy member. A normal, healthy mother would immediately go into mama bear and go into deep investigation and making sure that someone pays for crossing those boundaries with her child. But the narcissistic mother does not have the capacity to do that. Yeah? The narcissistic mother will look at the child and say that the child is lying. Or that the child, well, if you hadn't worn those little shorts, it wouldn't have happened. Or, oh, he just has an active imagination, he's making it up. Right? And the reason that the narcissistic mother does this is because it's rooted in their own psychological dysfunction, their defenses, right? Their defenses and their inability to empathize. They don't have any empathy, right? And so they can't empathize with the trauma that the child experienced. What they're afraid of is that their self-image as a mother is going to be distorted, or their self-image as a mate. Yeah. And so they feel like it reflects poorly on their ability to be a mother. And so they rewrite the story in their mind. If the child has an active imagination. Well, if she wouldn't wear those little shorts around the house, it wouldn't have happened. And they may get, or they're just lying. They're compulsive liars. They'll rewrite the story in their head and make the child the victim again. Can you imagine your mother's boyfriend is fondling you, or your daddy is fondling you, or the person at school is fondling you, or the clergy member is fondling you, and you go to your mother, the person that's supposed to protect you. Instinctively, you go to the mother for protection, and she looks at you and says that you're lying. It's your fault. You're making it up. You have an active imagination. The mother doing that is worse than the actual assault itself. So the person that experiences this has received double trauma, and massive trauma at that. The narcissistic mother is more concerned with her reputation than she is with the protection of the child. Now, they may protect the child if something happens in front of them, right? Because 9 times out of 10, if something happening in front of them, they have to react, right? They may react. They're gonna protect the child, or go into defense mode with the child. But it's less about the child being in a critical situation and more about them looking like a bad parent. And so when the child comes to them with something this traumatic, they feel like they failed as a parent. Or if it's their mate that has done this assault, they feel like they failed as a wife, that they don't have the capacity to keep him or her satisfied. And so you have this budding teenager that's walking around the house, and this predator in the house with you. The narcissist doesn't want to admit that they invited a predator into their home. They just make it all about them, and nothing to do with the child. The child ends up being the reason why it happened versus the predator being the reason why it happened. They can't handle the shame or the guilt, because shame or guilt would cause a narcissistic collapse. And so they practice cognitive dissonance, where they detach from it. Where the good mother and the good mother that takes care of the child, and the mother that would allow molestation to have, those two things can't coexist in a narcissistic mind. Because if they were to admit that, even though somebody that's healthy, as a healthy mother, you realize you may feel a little guilt. You may feel, God, I can't believe I let this happen to my baby, but deep down inside, a healthy mother knows that that if they're doing the right thing, it's not their fault either. But a narcissist can't fathom that. They automatically go to the fact that it would be their fault, and they would have to suffer shame and guilt. And yeah, it's just easier to not face the narcissistic collapse and say that the child made it up. It's in their head. It's all in their imagination. And if it's a young teenager that's walking around, she's developing, or he's growing up or whatever, because this is what I want to say about this. This is not a direct video in regards to men molesting little girls and little boys. I've worked in the holistic healing field for a while, and I have personally experienced women directly being in charge of the safety of women and young girls, and allowing men to molest them and not saying anything. The narcissist's mother is capable of this too, just so that she can keep the man. She knows exactly what's going on when all the other children have to go to bed and that one child has to stay up. She knows exactly what's going on. My mother was with the molester. Somehow or another, they parted ways. I don't know. I was too young to remember how that happened. But later on, she directly took us back to him. This man had already violated the children in the house. I'm not going to say which ones. But when she took us back to him, she took us to Germany with him first. And God only knows what happened there. I was very young, 6 years old. But then as I was older, 8 or 9, she took us to Ohio with him. And he was looking at the other children. I was always the sickly child, the one that was really skinny. I wasn't really the prettiest one. And I was always real shy and quiet. You would think that I would have been the one that had been touched and violated, right? And was. But this time, he wanted, without going into detail, he wanted me. And the narcissistic mother became very jealous. And she left. She would give him permission to do things to us that didn't violate our virginity. And I'll just leave that there. But he wanted to go further. And when he wanted to go further, it was an indication in her head that what she had from the waist down was not good enough. And that's the only reason that she got angry and packed us up and took us away. The only reason she got angry, not because he wanted to violate us further, but because it meant that what she had was not good enough. And it was 3 girls. So she probably identified with that she was getting older, but whatever her sick head was, I don't even want to know what was going on in that black hole filled with maggots. I don't even want to know. But that's the only time that she got angry. Right? When it challenged her persona that she had of herself. When it challenged her self-image. So you have narcissistic mothers that know just exactly what's going on. They are part of the molestation. Part of the pornography rings, the child pornography rings. The mother is in charge. The mother will sell their daughters to be a part of that. Baby, let me tell you something about that one that I came through. All that I just said was her, right? And so the narcissistic mother will deny that anything is going on. My point of bringing that up was to show that I have been in healing circles where women have been in charge of the healing circles and allowed men to violate the women within the healing circles. A woman did that. And so women, this entity that allows this to happen to children is not a gender. It's not a gender. And women have flew under the radar for far too long. This is the age of Aquarius, the age of information, the age of exposure. Women have flew under the radar for far too long when it comes to children being molested. So this is not a direct video towards men. I'm very aware that women are just as bad. Because remember, it's not a gender, it's an entity. It's a demon that's attached to a person that looks at a child and has that type of thought going through their head. And they're all over the place. They are all over the place. I read that energy like a book. And they know when you see them. They know when you see them. Anyone who has been molested as a child can read that energy like a book. All right? So this happening within a narcissistic, with a narcissistic mother, it challenges the illusion of the perfect family, her ability to satisfy her man, yeah? And it's taken as a personal attack against the narcissist. Sometimes the narcissist enmeshes themselves with the children. And the only reason they care what happens to the children is because they have not detached, the children are not their own being. The narcissistic parent has enmeshed with the child, and everything the child, they look at the children as an extension of them and not as an individual. And so they enmesh with the child. And when the child gets violated in some way, they will rationalize in their minds, because remember, it's a psychological defense. They will rationalize in their mind that if it happened to them, that means that somehow happened to me. And so they won't admit that they've ever been violated in any way, because then that says that they're not perfect, that this cognitive dissonance where that they are the good mother or the good person, by something like that happening to them, they can't rationalize it. All right? Now, if it happened to them personally, then they would probably, now they're the victim and something happened to them. But I don't think narcissists really even have the ability to empathize with themselves. So they enmesh with the child, and then they see the child as an extension of them. So when something happens to the child, they can't they can't fathom that that would happen to them, so they can't uh, uh, put it in their heads that it's happened to the child. So they'll just call the child a liar. The child is making it up. The child is jealous of them. The child just wants their man. They make up some crazy crap. Right? They're really sick. So this happens, like I said, statistics say it happens in 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 20 boys, but that's what's reported. And today we're speaking about the narcissistic mother who says nothing, that violates the child twice. Some of them know that it's happening to the child. They'll do anything to keep their relationship because their reputation of being married to whoever is threatened when the child says, "Daddy touched me," or "Your boyfriend touched me." And so the mother becomes an enabler of the molester. Yeah. They become an enabler. Yeah. I think I'll name this video that the enabling mother of the child molester. They become an enabler. If it's benefiting the mother in some way, she's getting money, her addictions are being fed. Yeah, she will literally sell her child. Yeah. At 15, I was sold to a 54-year-old man. And I was basically forced to stay there till I was 21. The only thing that gave me the courage to leave, because I'd been so domestically abused, was him forcing me to get pregnant, which ended up being a blessing because that's the only thing that gave me the courage to leave. When my child was born, I didn't know how to love myself, but when I saw her, I saw love for the first time. And that gave me the courage to leave. Yeah. 6 weeks old, walking down the street. Now, he was a Black Israelite, so there was no Jesus, right? I didn't really know much about Jesus anyways. My mother wasn't very religious. So at any rate, I'm walking down the street, 1 bottle of formula and some diapers. I'm on my way to the store to get more diapers because I lied and said that we needed diapers. He didn't know the difference. Put all my important paperwork in my purse. And me and this baby walked down the street, and I said, "Jesus, if you are there, if you really exist, please help me." Went to the payphone because we didn't have cell phones then. Ooh-wee, tell that age. Operator connected me to the domestic violence shelter. Domestic violence shelter told me to go someplace else because I was too close to the house, and sent a taxi. That's one thing about the domestic violence centers across the country. I want you to know this, that you don't have to have a car. You don't have to have anything. If you call one of the domestic violence hotlines, they will connect you with the domestic violence shelter, and they will send you a taxi or an Uber, whoever has collaborated with the local domestic violence center. They will send you transportation. The transportation will take you to the domestic violence shelter. They will let you rest in a safe room, right? You and your children or whatever, they'll let you rest in a safe room. Yeah. And then they will give you a little bit of therapy. They're going to have a little bit of background check and things of that sort. So, and I believe you got to have at least 1 police report on the violator. So, yeah, if you ever find yourself in that situation, I just thought I'd share that. I'm going to leave some links in the description of this video on how you can go get, if you have not been able to heal yourself thus far and something like this has happened, some support groups, maybe a national hotline that one could call in order to start their support group, to start healing. Because if this has happened to you and all you did was repress it, that you're functioning from that space, and you deserve better, right? You deserve to heal. You do. So Healing from the assault and the assault of the mother after you went to her for protection and she denied you that. It's complex post-traumatic stress disorder that one can get from this, from narcissistic abuse, yeah? And so this is a deep wound. This is the deepest mother wound you probably can possibly get. I want you to know it's not your fault. I want you to know that you didn't do nothing wrong. You're not crazy. If nobody else believes you, that you weren't lying, that you were, I believe you. Right? I believe you. There are all these small chances where a child doesn't like the father or doesn't like the boyfriend, and they may figure out they may be manipulative enough to say that he did something to them and that he really didn't do something to them. In that case, I believe you still yet. Because it's better that a parent believes their child, lying or not, and 99.9% of the time they're not, than to risk losing their child forever. You can always get another man or another woman. You can't get another child, yeah? That's your baby, and it's your responsibility to protect them at all costs, even if it means losing everything and starting over, right? So I will leave some resources in the description, and yeah, that's all I have for you here today on Closing the Gap. We make a conscious effort to meet you where you're at on your healing and your spiritual journey. And as always, inner child work, shadow work, and I'm always going to recommend, once you've done some therapy and you don't have any mental health issues such as schizophrenia, bipolar, narcissism, any extreme mental health issues. If you have PTSD, complex PTSD, anxiety, depression due to your abuse, I will always, always, always recommend Grandmother Ayahuasca. Yeah? Well, that's all I have for you today. Here on Closing the Gap, we make a conscious effort to meet you where you're at on your healing and your spiritual journey. You guys have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.